Hello, welcome to the Mark Attwood Show, Adventures in a Cosmic Suit. Cheers. Water. H3O2. Never heard of that? That's what you should be drinking. H3O2, not H2O. That was the big scam. Did you know that? Well, these are many other things you can learn on this amazing podcast. Now, before I crack into today's amazing guest, let me just remind you, if you didn't know already, that 3 years ago, myself and Gary Keeley set up this healing centre in the west of Ireland. And it's quite extraordinary, the things that we do there. I know not all of you can make it to Ireland. Look, true health starts with water. There you go. Hyperbaric oxygen, red light therapy. Since we opened this, over 850 franchise inquiries, some of which are getting close to actually happening. But you may or may not know that there is a shop on here. No pressure on you, but if you're interested in our range of incredible detox, that detox spray is unbelievably powerful. This is Lugol's iodine, magnesia 174. The numbers 741 there, 528 there, 174. They're frequencies that the distilled, clean, structured water is infused with. There's lots of things on there. So if you want to support what we're doing there, please feel free to go and have a look around. Now, I was very pleased to get an email the other day from somebody who I've met twice online before. And you think, well, why is that interesting? Well, because she was one of the first guests on my first ever podcast. There we are, over 5 years ago, Deborah Jane Sutton. And I remember Deborah's an amazing healer. She's English, I think. If I tell me off, she's definitely English, based in Spain. I think she might have moved. I don't know. But she said, hey, do you want to have another chat? And I was like, yeah, why not? So let's get her on. Hiya. How you doing, Deborah?
Hi. Yes, I'm very English.
And yeah, I knew you were. It suddenly hit me. I was like, shit, what if she's New Zealand or something? Yeah.
No, and I am still in Spain, but I've moved back to my old village, which is very Spanish. So.
Well, looking at that video, I think we're aging quite well.
Oh, definitely. That's because we're doing everything right, you know? That's because we're living from the heart, right? That's because we're following. I mean, what you've just put out there about your healing center, right? It makes me feel emotional. You know why? Because this is what it's all about. I mean, this is what it's all about. And I'm really picking up the more that we use that fire in our belly to focus on what we want to create, then the old paradigm, it becomes irrelevant. We don't have to entangle with it. I mean, we can watch it, you know, it's like a movie, but we're not entangled with it. We're not attached to it in any way because we're so focused on using our gifts in these other ways. So it always touches me when you talk about the center. Of course, I still haven't made it to Ireland, but I was just telling you, the last time we spoke, of course, I was running the garden retreat in Pego, in Alicante. And it just all happened beautifully that I got the message that my time there was complete and the perfect buyer walked in. So it's continuing. It's like my legacy. It's continuing. She's still offering the healing and the celebratory events. And of course, I can keep in touch with it. It's beautiful. But we're all moving to another level or another purpose or what have you.
I do totally agree with that. It's like, since the first show that you and I did, I was explaining this earlier to somebody. I said, Deborah's on my show later, and she's the one who said to me, I remember when you said it to me, because it was like right in the middle of COVID, and you were going, well, it's already won, Mark. What are you worried about? And I was like, what do you mean it's already won? I've got to fight. I need to fight people. And then I really had to process that idea, you know, and I think I must have repeated what you said thousands of times since then, because it takes a little time, but it has been a big initiation. You know, I was also discussing, although we already won up there was a huge amount of work to be done here, and a lot of which involved being very isolated and dealing with your own demons, and going through that process. is a long process, and there's a lot of people at different levels of consciousness. Why I found the fuel protests in this country in the last week have been the most interesting thing for me about those is that you've got different people at different levels of consciousness now being forced in a way to physically interact and share ideas. And a lot of people are going there just because of the price of diesel, are suddenly walking away, going home, going, Seamus told me that apparently it's satanic pedophiles in the Doyle. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, because they're not going to get that from a bloke on the internet. And so it is extraordinary to see all that go on. But it's been fantastic at the same time as being very frustrating. And you've been
yeah. It is. But when you said, like, you know, you're watching what's going on, but you realize that, you know, it is about our demons, or I would say our shadows. But one of the realizations that I had more than anything while writing this one, if I can just introduce this, my Lessons in the Way. It's called Lessons in Awakening.
Show us your book.
Yeah, I'll give it a good plug here, right?
Yeah, please do. Or freeze. It's up
like
to
a
you.
proper organ. But Lessons in Awakening is for, give me the spotlight. I've got a series on my YouTube channel called Lessons in Awakening. And so the basis of it is from that. But the subtitle is A Simple Guide to Quantum Manifestation, Self-Mastery, and Creating World Peace. And during the process of writing it, I had some serious realizations. And one of them was that we are the project. We are the project. The book is not my project. Of course, Mark written books, you know. So God Wins wasn't the project. Mark is the project. God Wins was your way of working on the project. That became really clear to me because my original subtitle was Creating Heaven on Earth. And when I changed it to Creating World Peace, it put the frequency of the book higher. And little old me wasn't at that frequency. So remembering that everything, see, this is what we were saying before, right? Everything is happening in the now moment. This is my understanding now. No past, no future. Everything's happening in the now moment. So I knew that the book was complete already in the now moment. What wasn't complete was Deborah's resonance with it.
Was you. Yeah.
Yes. And this is why I was the project. So I spent most of the summer just meditating, working on myself, you know, self-care, all this stuff. And then you mentioned in your video with Janine yesterday, or that I saw yesterday, about Ascension symptoms, because here's an Ascension symptom that kind of literally blew my mind. So I'm just relaxing, right? So I've been trying to work on the book, but it wasn't happening, right? And I was just relaxing, doing a puzzle in the sun or what have you, as you do here in Spain. And I didn't know anything, right? But I had a seizure. I had a convulsion. My husband thought that I was having a stroke or epilepsy or something. But when I was unconscious for about half an hour, when I came round, you know, I wasn't even phased. There was this woman kneeling in front of me, sticking these things all over my chest. There was an ambulance in the driveway. My husband's best friend was there because the ambulance couldn't find our house and he'd asked him to help. And I was just all a bit dazed. Anyway, I went to hospital, got completely checked over, the whole works. But I'm happy as Larry because I'm like, that there's nothing wrong. It was an upgrade. It was an upgrade. Have you seen the Schumann resonance? I was going, the Schumann resonance was off the scale that day. And the Schumann resonance is electromagnetic energy coming in. We are electromagnetic energy. So it came in and affected the brain. And I was like muscle testing all the way. So like going, no, it's not epilepsy. I'm fine. Everything's perfect. It's an upgrade. Anyway, that aside, the very next day, the book came out of me. The book just came out. Couldn't stop it, you know? Mm-hmm. And within 2 weeks, it was out of me, formatted, edited, you know, the whole lot and out. And so for me, that is just evidence that, I mean, it is an Ascension symptom, but that was Deborah finally reaching the resonance, the vibration of the book. And therefore, it was already in existence, and therefore it came out effortlessly. And this is the whole point, isn't it? Because life isn't meant to be a struggle. Everything is effortless when we allow it to be. Have I gone off on one?
Yeah, no, great. I mean, it's very in tune with conversations I'm having every day. Like, I mean, I thought I was dying this year. I've been through times when I'm like, oh shit, am I dying? It feels like death. And then suddenly you bounce back and you're like, oh, like this morning, I got woken up by what sounded like a fox murdering a badger at 5 o'clock. And I was like, okay, I'm up now. What am I going to do? And I had this task to complete. And it just came into my head. And it was a job I've been putting off for 3 months. And I just spent 4 hours this morning it just got done so easily. I was like, why did I procrastinate on that? And because I know everything's exactly as it's meant to be. So once you get into that state and you allow it to just happen when it happens, I was given this beautiful, quiet morning.
Beautiful.
Apart from the animal screaming out the window, which I think was designed to wake me up. And I got this job done. And I'm like, okay. And I feel so much better. Sorry, you froze there for a sec.
Yeah, I thought you froze. Okay, I'm back.
Well, I felt so much better because there's this thing that I was explaining this story about. There was a guy, I think about 100 years ago, who was in a French restaurant and he noticed all the waiters were busy restaurant. They didn't take any notes. They took everybody's order. They could have a table of 10 people, all with different, I want this without that and this and that. And he remembered it all. They never got the orders wrong, right? And as soon as the bill was paid, they couldn't remember a thing. And this guy would spend a few weeks there and he'd go and question them and say, well, what did that table have? I do not know. I cannot remember. And he was like, it's because the loop was closed in the brain. Yeah. As soon as the loop's closed, the brain doesn't need to retain the information, so it goes. But because we live in a time where we're constantly on these things and, especially what I'm doing, unanswered comments, unanswered emails, customer service things, jobs, big list of jobs, unclosed loops. And this is what we're going to get away from and find that silence and that peace. And the only way you do that is by closing the loops. And you have to close the loops, not just on tasks in your mind, not just on unanswered messages on WhatsApp or whatever. You have to close the loops on everything in your past life, in your life. And not only this life, probably the ones before that, because there's a lot of loops that weren't closed, which is why after when I first interviewed you, that next year, I went through this incredible this life, review of this life, things that were unresolved, relationships that went wrong, things I did wrong, things that maybe I shouldn't have said, to the point where I would pull over on the road because it would not leave until I processed it. And there's been a lot of processing for me. And I know
is that inner work, isn't it?
Well, yeah, that's the funny thing, because I used to laugh at people that used to say inner work. You got to do the inner work, man. I'd be like, oh, shut up. And then, oh shit, I've been doing it for years. I didn't realize, that's the funny thing. So that's beautiful that you've had this.
But what you're saying, what I love about what you're saying, Mark, is that, what we're saying, that we are the project. So you talked about all these tasks that you had and that you had been procrastinating, right? Well, if you understand it as in the task is complete, then there's no procrastination. Procrastination doesn't exist.
Yeah.
How can procrastination exist? Procrastination is when you're sitting there going, oh, I really should do this or should do that. It's not outside of you. It's the inside. It's like, why am I not resonating with that? How do I become a vibrational match to that?
Yeah.
How do I become what I want to see in my own world?
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
And so the answer is always that time to process. And that's why I said before we recorded about the gift, coming late. This is my thing now. It's the 3 S's. It's the solitude, the silence, and the stillness. And it is a challenge. And I'm sure we all need more of it, but it is a challenge because solitude is really important, especially when we've got kids and partners and stuff. The silence as well, because it's not just the devices, but get rid of the music and as well as, everything. But that stillness, it's that sitting still and just staring at a wall. I know it sounds a bit woo-woo, but that giving us the gift, give yourself the gift of doing nothing. When does anyone ever do that?
Right, you've just given me the title for my next book.
Oh, wow.
You want to hear it?
Yeah, go on.
Give yourself the gift of doing fuck all.
Yeah. You gave me that gift. You gave me that gift. And it just feels glorious. And you know what? It's the nervous system. It's the nervous system is the thing. We don't realize that our nervous system is shot to pieces.
Totally.
And so it's that giving that nervous system the time. And it doesn't matter what you think about. People talk about meditation and how do you stop thinking? Don't think about how you're going to stop thinking. Just let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. It's okay if you think, because from my point of view, when I was writing the book, I would come into the office, I would sit down and I would just meditate. And I had to get that place, solitude, silence, stillness. And as soon as I accessed it, then I had to get up and write. But I was so aware that it was the solitude, the silence, and the stillness was my access point to channeling the book. And to just imagine if we lived in that state, what a world we'd be in. I mean, it's amazing, isn't it?
Well, that's why it's been designed to be the complete opposite.
Yeah, but we don't have to succumb to that.
No, we don't. And what you said about that was a second ago was really interesting, because it reminded me of my favorite Buckminster Fuller quote, which is there's no point fighting the system because you'll drown. I mean, he didn't say that exactly, but that's what I mean. You just build what you want.
Exactly.
And that's
what I said. If you focus on creating the new, the old paradigm becomes irrelevant, because the truth is, from a quantum perspective, and I'm not claiming to be a quantum physicist, of course, but I'm also not a car mechanic, remember, and I can drive a car and I can look after my car. So it's about understanding enough quantum physics that we can look after this vehicle in this lifetime. But no, I mean, it's a quantum truth that we can't actually change anything from the frequency that it's created in. So I look at it like murky water, right? So we're living in the ocean, right? All that is, and we're fish in the ocean, right? Now we can swim down to that murky water. We can see what's going on. We're not denying it. We're not putting our head in the sand. That's what this book is about as well, because it's spiritual wisdom backed by quantum science and expressed through my own personal experience. So the people that go, oh, the Love and Light Brigade, I'm like, yep, I am Love and Light Brigade. You know why? Because you're a light being. We are lights. Our chakras are lights, like the rainbow. We are the rainbow, and we are love. That frequency, whether we call it God or source or whatever, it's love. It's pure love, right? So we are love and light beings. And so that doesn't mean we've got our head in the sand. That doesn't mean we're spiritual bypassing, because we're little fish and we can see the murky water. But if you swim down into the murky water, all you do is become a murky fish, right? Where does that help anybody? You're not helping the murkiness, you're adding to it. Whereas if you actually decide to look up and you go, oh, look, it's lights up there. Oh, look, they're having more fun up there. Oh, look, life looks good up there. Start swimming that way. And you might feel drawn back. But just keep swimming, like Nemo said, just keep swimming. And then you realize that you're not getting rid of the murky water. What you're doing is you're creating purity, but not just for yourself, for everyone, because you are the whole collective in one human being. So I think we've been approaching it wrong, because all this fighting, if we're fighting, it means that we have resistance. If we have resistance, that means that what you resist persists. If we have resistance, it means that we're judging. And if we're judging, we're creating. Because from a quantum perspective, and I do explain this in the book, but from a quantum perspective, the observer's judgment of what they're observing is how the observed thing is going to collapse into form. And when you realize that, you're like, oh, bloody hell, I'm creating the shit. That's basically the way it works from a quantum perspective. And even if you don't see that, And even if you think it's from a selfish perspective, a lot of people go, yeah, but it's very selfish just to live your own life and be all happy when there's so much suffering in the world. And I understand that perspective. That's where I was, you know. But the point is, we create our own suffering with those thoughts. Does that make? And we can do more good. That's what we're talking about. We can do more good for the collective when we are at that higher frequency. We're doing more good for humanity. And it was, who was it, Ram Dass, that said, all I can do for you is to work on myself, and all you can do for me is to work on yourself.
I can't disagree with that, but it does bring up quite a long-standing argument that I've had with, not recently, but quite a long time ago, when I was told, why do you talk about all this satanic ritual abuse and all that nasty stuff, Mark? It's an inside job. But I had a very specific mission, and that was that people who found out about that stuff knew it was still going to be okay. And also to, you know, the reason why I still commentate on things that are happening in the movie, whatever you want to call it, in reality,
in the murky water,
is to say, look, that's going on. This is my interpretation. Relax and start doing, you know, it's like I'm very much a bridge in that respect. And also I had a very strong opinion, and I still do, that so many people on the planet didn't know what we were up against, didn't see what we were up against. And they, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I was like, well, how can you get past something unless you know what it is that you're trying to get past? You know, so that was, so I've held both of those ideas at the same time.
Yeah, let me just point out something that's really important and relevant to what you're saying. Well, first of all, you're dominant in divine truth, right? Remember, we both are. I did your soul profile, so I'm truth.
Oh, do you remember it? I don't remember what you
said.
I
remember that you're the opposite of, you've got them the other way around. So you've got divine self-expression and then divine truth, which basically means, you know, that we both, our souls want to express and talk truth, right? So you are doing what you came here to do. Yes, and you do need to mention it. So if you don't mention it, you're not being authentic. So you're totally right.
Yeah, it's like the elephant in the room. You can't.
Exactly. You're just pointing out there's a great big elephant in the room, and that's your job. And I admire you. It's fantastic. Here's the difference, right? If people talk about it or view it or what have you, and they are triggered, then they have a vibrational match to it somewhere. They have a judgment or a vibrational match. It could have been a past life. We haven't always been lovely. So we could have had a past life, but there's some vibrational match, and then we're pushing that away because we don't want to believe it or think it or whatever. Now, if you are continuing to see that and talk about it and raise people's awareness without that trigger, then that is where you want to be, because it's that trigger is what you said, demons, I'll say shadow. That's what we need to process. So we can then still talk about these things without being triggered. It's the being triggered that's the important point, because the point of the trigger is literally a vibrational match, which means there's something in us that is at the same frequency. That's what we need to work on. Whereas once you've released whatever that is, then we can talk about, it's like, for example, I always use my ex-husband as an example, right? So in the past, like 20 years ago, if I talked about him, there were still triggers going on, right? But I can talk about him now with a heart full of love and gratitude. Absolutely, right? I mean, because there's no trigger there anymore. It was my lack of self-love. So because I worked on that, I can now talk about him. I can talk about the suffering, which I used to blame him for, but of course it's my path, my growth, you know, and I can talk about it now completely emotionless because there's no trigger. Are you with me? So it's actually about the trigger. And it's interesting because I heard something the other day which really resonated with me. You know how we talk openly or we talk regularly about you can't love another until you love yourself, right? When you love yourself, you can love others more wholeheartedly. Well, if we take these quantum truths, we can't just pick and choose them. They all have a polarity. That's your fourth hermetic principle. I talk about the 7 hermetic principles in this and bring them into everyday life because we need to know We need. You got the Cavalion.
No, I've got this. Hermes runs the game.
Exactly.
The author of this. I was supposed to interview him last month, but anyway.
Oh, we'll do that. Oh my God, I'd love to hear that, because I've simplified them, of course. But you know, if we want to know the fourth one is the principle of polarity. So yes, we can't love another until we love ourselves, but equally, we can't hate another if we don't hate ourselves. So if we're judging and hating others, we need to look in the mirror. And that's what people are afraid of. And that's why people are pushing that part of themselves away. And if you push that part of yourself away, that's why no one feels complete. But when you can get out of denial and you can integrate that shadow, that's where you feel the completeness. And this polarity that we're talking about, there's a middle road. Take the middle road. That's the road that we want to go on, right? Where the others are very emotional, right? So let's just come down, you know, the neutrality side of things. So yeah, I think that's the difference, is that you're raising awareness, but there's more power in your words when you're coming from a place of not being triggered. Because when you're coming from a place of not being triggered, you're coming from a place of expansion. You're coming from a place of love. And that's when your words have more power. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense.
Yeah. Can I mention something that I thought about with your video with Janine that I watched yesterday?
You can say whatever you
want. I loved it, right? I loved it because, you know, I'm a tarot card reader as well, so I love all of that. You asked the question, what percentage of the collective are awake? Right? Now, kind of rightly so, she didn't mention a percentage because we're all creating our own reality, right? So, but you probably remember I'm a big fan of Dr. David Hawkins. And so... And yes, the map of consciousness, you know, I have them all like, you know, here and stuff like this. I love all of this. So from his perspective, and I'm just kind of like turning it around a bit, because in his book, so I don't know whether you know or remember, but
I do.
Here, like, so 200 is the cutoff point between a state of contraction and a state of expansion. And so these people are vibrating at this frequency. They cannot evolve because they're living in a place of fear or shame or guilt or what have you. But in his book, Power versus Force, which is his first book, he wrote it in 1994. And in that book, he says that 85% of the population were vibrating below 200.
Yeah.
Okay. So I thought, okay, fair enough. And then I went on to read his other books, and I read his book, The Eye of the Eye. And he wrote that book in 2001. And in that book, he states that 78% of the collective were vibrating below 200. So you can see that people have woken up, right? So then I thought, oh, that's interesting. I wonder if he mentions it again. And then I realized I don't need him to do it because I can muscle test and I read the Akashic records with the soul realignment and blah, blah, blah. So in 2022, I muscle tested and calibrated what percentage were below 200, and I got 62%. So I was like, wow, okay, there's definitely people waking up. And the thing is that we do know that it's not one and one, because we know, don't we, from the statistics, that someone vibrating at 300 counterbalances 90,000, someone vibrating at 400 counterbalances 400,000 people below 200. 500, the level of love, you're counterbalancing 750,000, right? So it's not just one person here outweighs one person here. Our power lies in the expansion. And
well, that's why everybody we pull over the bridge has a huge effect. But it's also important for people to realize that 72.6985% of all statistics are made up.
Oh, okay. Maybe they are, but
now come on, that was a really good joke. I can't believe you didn't get that.
Oh, I'm
Come on,
what
Deborah.
what I was going to say, no, because what I was going to say, right, was I'm into this, like, you don't trust anything that you read or see. You don't have to believe anything that you read or see, but you do trust yourself, which is why I'm such a big fan of teaching the sway test and teaching people to muscle test and to tap into their own. That's why I asked you to get your Dowsers, because we can work on this. But this is why go within for your answers. So I was going to combat that and say, yes, but I do trust my own, because what I did, it made me do it after watching your video with Janine. I was like, 2026, let's measure this, let's calibrate and see what percentage of the collective are vibrating below 200. And I got 50.
Oh, you froze.
55.
55.
So to me, that's massive. 55%. I mean, there'll probably be people saying, oh, this, I don't look at the science behind all of these things. But to me, that makes sense. It really does. But it's the other thing that's really important is understanding that we create our own suffering by thinking that we know the best path for another.
Yes.
And I tell you who taught me this was my mother, right? And she doesn't know it. But in 2020, I think it might have been 2020 or 21, I created my own suffering by begging her not to do this.
Yeah.
And I was literally begging her. I was in fear. I was, and she said to me, what you need to understand, Deborah, is that you're the only person I know in the entire world that isn't doing this. And I was like, oh my God, because Mum, you're the only person I know in the entire world that is doing this. And doesn't that just prove that we've got like different realities going on? But the truth is, like, she's had every single one. And the truth is, she's 86 years of age. She goes to Brighton and Hove Albion Football Club, up the Seagulls, every home game, right? She sends me videos
Sorry about this internet, everybody.
Right, of her tribute band, Bee Gees tribute band. I mean, she's living her best life. And I was like, okay, I've got to respect that, because the truth is I was causing my own suffering by thinking that I knew what was right for her. So, different people give us these different lessons, don't they? But it's us that's rigid in our thinking. I mean, I wouldn't have said that, like, in 2021, of course. But, this is how we learn and grow, right?
It is. And it's these are big lessons. I learned that through the healing center, because I wanted to hit, I thought they'd be queuing up around the corner. We'll heal everybody. Nah.
Just focus on yourself, because as far as Rumi, remember Rumi? You're not just a drop in the ocean, you're the whole ocean in one drop. It's so true. I talk about that in this book as well. There is only you, and not from a selfish point of view, but when you change the way you perceive, like we've just said, when you change the way you perceive something, you allow what you're perceiving, you allow what you're observing to come into the form that you're perceiving. So this is why it's so important to see the good in everything.
Yeah.
And that's not spiritual bypassing. People call that spiritual bypassing. No, it's not. It's understanding that if I can see the good in something, even if it's suffering, but if I can see the good in it, then it will collapse into that good. Well, that's just kind of
using my own terminology about demons. I'm always thanking them, because all of that negative aspect, all of those negative aspects have just benefited me in the long term, even though it's horrible going through it at the time.
Yes, and it was part of your journey and your soul. The way I look at it, through the soul level stuff, because if I just quick plug for the second book, Heal Your Soul, and we talk about the soul level stuff, I mean, we choose our adversity. And we know, the old souls know, that when we overcome suffering, we evolve, and we evolve so much faster. So on a soul level, we actually choose more suffering because we want to evolve. So that most of the big spiritual teachers, you'll find that they've had some horrendous suffering in their younger days. And it's so also that helps you have more compassion for people that are suffering without thinking that you've got to change anything. Because if you step in and try and change stuff for them, first of all, you create your own suffering. But secondly, you're taking away their gift of learning, their gift of evolution.
Mm-hmm.
When you can see it from that perspective, it changes the way you feel, because us being in a state of contraction doesn't help anybody.
No, not unless
Did I freeze again?
Yeah, you keep freezing, but it's okay. It's not. It's not cutting chunks. It's just giving a little pause. Before I forget, where do we get these books, Deborah?
I'm afraid I'm still on Amazon. But can I just mention?
Don't apologise for that, because it has to be done. There's no other way.
Right, it does have to be done for me. But if I can just mention, this is my first book, my very first book, Heal Yourself to Happiness. And the PDF version of this book is free to download from my website at deborahjanesutton.com. I made this book free in 2020 because I looked at what was happening in the world and I went, oh my God, people need to know this stuff. And the paperback is at cost price on Amazon. So that's my gift. And this book basically covers the power of your own energy. It's the first step.
Sorry, Deborah's internet is not very good today. She'll be back in a second. Hello.
Oh, you're putting that out. Okay. Thank you. I wondered where we went there. And yeah, the second book is available from Amazon. And the third book, I had the third book free in Kindle form when I sent you the link. I don't know whether you shared it. I'm not on Telegram anymore, so I don't know whether you shared it or not, but it was free. That's why I sent it to you, because I was offering the Kindle free for a weekend, the Easter weekend. But it's not a lot anyway. It's not about that, is it? But so this one is basically about body. This one is about your soul. And this one is about consciousness. So I've kind of made a trilogy here. And this one completes the trilogy. The next book will be about tarot wisdom, different subject.
Sonate Hakla de Felicidad.
Oh, yeah. Well, the first one is in Spanish, and I'm working on the Spanish translation for the third book at the moment. And not in my Spanish. I have to work with other people because my Spanish isn't fluent. But anyway. But yeah, what I wanted to do, with your, I'm excited, with your dowsing, right? Because you were using them yesterday, right? And that's genuine, right? You get yes, no.
Yeah.
Right. So you can find out for yourself. This is the point I wanted to make. You can find out for yourself what percentage of people are under 200.
I do this all the time. When I'm asking questions to Janine or interviewing people, I'm being the audience because they want to hit. It's often their questions. But everything I do is driven by
me. Because you can sway test too. I remember you swaying testing.
Yeah,
I
do all that. I do all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But so one of the things that you can do, like now with your yes, no, ask the question, are there 55% vibrating below 200?
Okay, thank you. Reset. Are there 52% vibrating
55.
below? Sorry, are there reset? Are there 55% people vibrating below the consciousness level of 200? Yes or no? Yes.
Okay. Wow. So we could answer that question ourselves just by doing that's a powerful thing.
Or are there 50% vibrating below? Yeah, I'm getting a yes. I think it's increased in the last 24 hours.
Yeah. It's us expressing ourselves. But something else that
hang on. Aren't you the one that said to me 5 years ago, you're the only one in the room, Mark?
Yeah, there's only you. Yeah. There is only you. And it's true. We need to bring it back. I mean, all right, there obviously are other versions of us, but when you look into that, there is only me. It really takes you into that. If I want to change something outside, I have to change it within myself. It's that classic one, like if you're looking in the mirror, you've got a dirty mark on your face, you cannot clean it off on the mirror. you have to clean it off on yourself. It's taking radical responsibility. And this, I think, is really important because a lot of people are in denial of their own shadow, like we touched on before. But we need to take radical responsibility for all of it. So we are the collective, or we're part of the collective, however you want to perceive it. So we've got to take responsibility for creating some of this murky water. You know, I mean, and a lot of people are shying away. It's like, oh, I'm good, they're bad. And it's like, no, there is no good.
Well, this is interesting because I'm constantly having that thing about, like with the jabs, for example. I'm like, I got told, make a video, talk to the people that had that, tell them, you know, they were dupes and you're there for them. And I did this. And that was on X. And that's when I went back on X about 3 years ago. And I got told it will get 1 million views. And when it does, things will start shifting. And it's on 1.8 million now. It's ridiculous. And it's like, and I kept getting, you know, well, I kept meeting people who go, oh, them, they made their choice. And I'm like, I can't do that. I'm like, no, I can't leave them behind. I just can't do it.
Well, you know why? Because they're part of you.
Precisely.
They're a part of us. And also, one of the things that really helped me was seeing Deborah as my human, right?
Yeah.
Not identifying as being Deborah, not in a pompous way, but just in a, like, we're a soul with a human, right? We're not a human with a soul, we're a soul with a human. So when I started looking at Deborah like a child, right? Not in a condescending way, but in a loving way, because Deborah used to beat herself up. Oh, you did that wrong. Oh, you should have done it like that. You know, that's how I would never speak to a child like that. You would never judge a child for doing something wrong. You wouldn't judge it as wrong. You don't judge a child for believing in Father Christmas. You know, we don't judge people. So we don't judge children.
That's so interesting because yesterday I was having a conversation about the way that a lot of parents treat children. They do that. I mean, to me, it's abhorrent, and obviously it is to you, but parents do talk to their kids like that and are constantly putting them down. That's why healers exist. Yeah. Quite a lot.
Some might, but this is why the inner child work is about parenting yourself, isn't it? And so I remember, because I went through a lot of grief in 21, and I remember observing Deborah crying her heart out on her knees in the kitchen. And the reason it helped me was because if I identified with Deborah, then I'm in a state of contraction. I'm in a state of grief. I'm victim to my circumstances. No one's going to benefit from that. But because I was observing her, she had to do it because of the emotional, you know, she had to go through that. But because I was observing her, first of all, it lessened the intensity of the emotions, which obviously helped. But I held space for her, like I would a client, like I would a child having a tantrum. You know, I held space for her, and she was able to process all of that. And so often this idea of just observing ourselves as the children that we are, we're all children of God, right? I mean, and it helps you not judge yourself. It helps you love your flaws and all. It helps you love all of it. And I think that really helps, is that you are your higher self. That's one of the sections in this book. You are your higher self. And like Mark is doing a fantastic job. Deborah's doing a fantastic job. You know, but we are limited. The human part of us is so limited with our senses, with our perceptions, with our programming. We're stuck in the density of the matrix. Our souls are not. Our souls are already living in 5D. And you had a guy ask, didn't you? Oh, in 5D, will there be this, that, and the other? And
sex, yeah.
I know, that was funny. Because look, this is one of my diagrams from the book, and it's my own, so I can share it. But this is where I'm coming from, is that the physical body is our third dimensional physical body, right? So that's our 3D, most dense part of us. But also we know that we have emotions and thoughts. So here is our emotional layer, which you can't see, but we know we have them, and we can see the effects of them on our physical body. And then we've got the mental body here, which again is the mental body is where we have our thoughts and our beliefs and our ideas and stuff like that, right? So they make up our fourth dimensional aspect. And then if you come up here, the astral body is where the soul resides. So our souls are already in the fifth dimension. It's our humans that are suffering from this density. So how do we get, people talk about going from 3D to 5D. Well, how do we do it? I'm sorry, it is the inner work, because you have to transcend the fourth dimensional aspects of who we are. And they are our emotional body and our mental body. So for me, it is always about processing those lower emotions. And that's why I use the emotion code. And also installing more positive beliefs, which is why I use the Psych K, because that helps install, the positive. You can identify your limiting beliefs and then install the counterbalancing positive one. So by doing that whole fourth dimension, I mean, if you're riddled with negative emotions and negative thoughts, the world is a dangerous place, I'm not good enough, I can't afford it, I can't do all these stuff. That's what's keeping us stuck in the matrix. That's what's keeping us stuck in the density. So when you can start using affirmations, gratitude, whatever it is, that's where this book comes in, because this helps you kickstart yourself, understanding the power. We know words are spells, so let's use them positively. I don't call them affirmations anymore. I call them quantum commands, because affirmations can take time, right? Affirmations, you've got to keep repeating them. No, you're the creator of your own reality. Quantum command.
Oh, I've talked about this before. I did that years ago. I've always been good at this, and when I decided to make money when I was about 30, I just decided. You're frozen again. Oh, yeah, you're back. I just made it. I literally, I made a decision. It was just a decision, but it was a firm, 100% committed decision. Looked at myself in the mirror, said, right, enough of this. You're going to make money this year. And within a year, I'd made a ridiculous amount of money. And it was like, that was 35 years ago. It's just it is a command.
It is a command. And also the thing with affirmations, and one of the things I remember, because I do a lot of the work I do with people, right? I teach yoga in the village, but I don't know why I call it, well, yoga is all of it. So we do a lot of this work in that. But when you're repeating an affirmation, you can tell when you become in alignment with it, because when you start saying it, it feels uncomfortable, and your brain is going, I don't believe this. And then as you align with it, I get them to play with the words, because as you align with it, especially if you're doing, for example, the big one, I love and accept myself completely, because then you get to this stage, because there are postures that you can use, brain integration postures that help speed it up, right? Help install it. But you can feel it in yourself when you do it. But I've seen it in so many clients, is that when they're getting to that stage where what they're doing is they're raising their frequency to match the frequency of that affirmation, because that affirmation is at a frequency higher than they are. So it's all about getting your frequency to match what you want, right? And so when they realize it, then they go, oh, I do love and accept myself. Oh my God. I do love and accept. And you can see the self-realization in them. It is a realization. It's not just I love and accept myself. I love and accept myself. Because if you're doing it like that, you know that they're not in alignment with it. And then they go, no, I do love and accept. So when you said that, remember what we said, what you did making money already existed. And there's a part of you tapping into that.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why you're able to go with conviction, no, I'm going to make money this year. It's a realization.
Well, it's the same as the German new medicine that I used to get rid of the melanoma on my head, thanks to Danny Carroll's work. I just told it to go, thank you very much, go away. And it did overnight. And it's like, and I say this to a lot of people that I meet in the healing center. I said, this place is a bridge. So we don't heal anything. You have the ability to heal yourself, but you're not ready for that. So this place is here with machines that are going to help you get to the point where you are ready for that. It's a bridge.
To give you the belief. Also, to give you the belief. Because it's your belief.
Each therapy is a stepping stone towards understanding how powerful you are and how powerful your body is.
Exactly. Exactly. And also it's so important, I'm realizing this more and more, that people need to invest in themselves. So
Totally.
I don't do freebies anymore. But if someone has invested in themselves through investing in me, then I probably do still overgive. But they've got to take that first step, because
I learned that years ago.
it's so important. Yeah,
we had a comedy club in Manchester. My friend opened it. And he's still a socialist, and God bless him. And he said, well, the pub's paying us for the acts, so we'll make it free. And then the place got packed out. It was in a student area of Manchester. And it was a terrible night because everybody spoke through all the acts. And I said, you're going to have to charge people because they're not valuing it.
Yeah.
So he started charging them, became one of the most loved comedy clubs in Britain, and it's still going 35 years later.
Yeah, but my point is the audience will get so much more out of it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Because they paid money, they valued it.
Yeah. I mean, if I think what I've invested in, I mean, I've done all these courses, and I'm very good at looking after myself. I'll go on retreats, I have massages. I'm like, it's all constant. Anything that raises your frequency. But a lot of the ways that we raise our frequency is free anyway, of course. But as long as we're constantly raising our frequency, I don't think we can go wrong. I mean, that, like what I was just showing, this movement, that guy that was saying, what will it be like in 5D is not a place. It's a level of consciousness. Mm-hmm. It's Christ consciousness. I mean, Christ isn't Jesus's surname. It was his level of consciousness. And we can all access that. And we do all access that. I mean, when we lose ourselves in our creative projects, we're in 5D. It's only when we activate the mind again and come back down to earth, that we kind of lose it. So, I mean, this whole idea about moving from 3D to 5D, personally, I can't see how we can do it without processing. You can do it without being aware that you're doing it, I think, maybe. Like just people do process emotions. You can have people that, just during a yoga practice will want to have a cry, and you just think, cool, that's cool, but it has to come out, because from an energy perspective, we're dense, right? And in 5D is not so dense. I mean, there's many other dimensions, right? Because you've got your past over loved ones and your spirit guides in the 6th dimension, and you've got, I mean, there's probably some people incarnated in the 6th dimension, but we're probably not going to see much of them. But then you've got our galactic friends, haven't we? The Arcturians in the 9th, the Syrians in the 12th. I mean, there's so many. We're multidimensional, and we're just trying to work with this little 4th dimension just to get ourselves, that little bit more into that loving space.
Yeah, we're all down here in the shit trying to fight our way out because it's fun.
We chose it.
That's what
we chose it.
I'm saying.
Yeah, we chose it.
Exactly,
but I'm not surprised with what's going on at the moment. I think I said to you one of our messages about Mars has just moved into Aries. So that's the Mars is the planet of war. I'm not an astrologer, by the way, but just again, it's another thing that I think we need to just keep an eye on. But Mars is the war planet, right? And it's anger. It's the anger planet, really. And Aries, of course, is fire. Aries is the pioneers. It's the first of the zodiac signs. And there's a lot, as we know, of repressed anger in the world. And I'm not judging people for that, because I remember as a child, especially as a teenager, being punished for feeling angry. We were not brought up to express anger in a healthy way. Even with the toddlers having a tantrum, I've seen people smack them and say that's bad behavior, when all they're doing is expressing frustration and anger. That's why we need to hold space while they process it, So there's so much repressed anger. And what's happening is we're seeing that now playing out. But all these energies have a shadow and a siddhi, or a shadow and a light side, whichever way you want to look at it. So I always look, like with the planets, with the zodiac signs, it's like with the tarot cards, they all have a shadow and a positive side. So the positive of Mars being in Aries, let's look at Aries. I mean, Aries in tarot is the emperor. He's the most sovereign of them all. So I'm like, step into our sovereign self, take back your own power. and express your anger, but you can do it from a place of love. Because the thing about anger, if we look at this chart, which we've seen so many times, I mean, anger, it is still in a state of contraction, but it's higher than shame. It's higher than guilt. It's higher than apathy. Apathy, people don't care, right? It's higher than fear, you know. And anger, the thing about anger, the reason it's positive is because it shows that you want change. It shows that you want something to change. And that's a good place to be, because, you know, apathy, of course, depressed people, they don't care about anything. So anger shows that you care. So I don't have a problem with anger, but it's still a state of contraction. So really, the thing about anger is people want what's outside of them to change. They're pointing fingers saying this needs to change, and this needs to change, and this needs to change. It's a mirror. So who needs to change? You know, and it is about realizing that if you're observing anger in the world, which we are now, right? We're all observing it to different degrees, of course, because it's a reflection of the different degrees of anger that we still have within us. And we're not judging that, because we understand how we've repressed anger. And as you said, there's past life stuff, and there's also ancestral stuff, right? There's a lot of ancestral stuff. Our ancestors weren't able to do this, and we came here to do it, right? So we're not judging having it, but expressing it. And the thing is, though, if we can look at that anger as being your fire in your belly, right? And you want to go in the murky water, you're just going to add, aren't you, to the murky water? Whereas, so the real message for now, right? Because we're coming out of Aries soon, but for now, Mars in Aries, well, there's loads of planets in Aries, right? So Aries, this fire in our belly is affecting us in so many different ways because of all the different planets in it. But if we can use that fire in the belly to create something new, use it like the ace of fire, the ace of wands in tarot is inspiration. It's the start of new divine action. So if we can take that step towards something new, something divine, and where does that action comes from? I'm doing a full circle here, unlike me. It comes from the solitude, the silence, and the stillness, doesn't it? Give yourself that gift, that fire in the belly. Where does it want to go? Where does it want to go? Boom, give yourself just a few moments of solitude, silence, and stillness, and then use that fire in the belly. Write another book, do another podcast, do whatever we're doing, open another healing center. Look how much you've expanded it all. You know, that's how we express that fire element within us healthily and in service to humanity. And that's what we came here to do, to be of service to humanity. And it starts by being in service to ourselves.
Well, you just came full circle and perfectly ended that podcast.
Perfect.
Where'd you go from there? It's perfect. Perfect circle.
Excellent.
Deborah
It's always
Jane,
a pleasure to connect with you, Mark. Always a pleasure to connect with you.
DeborahJaneSutton.com. Go there. Tell her I sent you. And it's amazing that you've... it's great. It's great to not speak to you for a couple of years and see your evolution, but also continuity. And let's end this on chatting about there's going to be people watching. You know, often these conversations, there's people that get it and other people that go, what about this? What about that? You know, and they're still viewing you know, and I don't blame them. And I find it too interesting. I have to keep an eye on it because I enjoy it.
Of course, it's a movie.
Exactly. It's fun. What about the people dying? Yeah. I mean, what do you say to all of those guys who are still locked into that kind of stuff?
Well, I don't know whether I can say it in a minute, but I do want to say, read this book then, because I explain all of that. It literally is the quantum manifestation, the self-mastery that we need in order to transcend that fourth dimension and creating world peace. That's a claim. That's a claim. There's a book about how to create world peace, right? I'm like, I'm standing by it. The reviews that have come in so far are going, yep, did what it said. So if that's the question, I would say this is the book to read. But it is about understanding the laws that govern the universe. I've had this from the beginning. It's like, if you're looking at your world and you don't like it, the first thing we need to do is take radical responsibility for our contribution to it. How did we create it? And I know it sounds corny, but all the great teachers say, don't they, that we need to be the change that we want to see. They're not saying it for fun. They're saying it because it's a quantum truth.
Yeah. There you go.
That's what I would say.
Beautifully put. Deborah Jane Sutton, thank you. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
I'll see you in Spain someday.
You as well. Yes, definitely.
Take care. Mañana.